Welcome to actually our webinar here on expanding digital access through affordable connectivity program. If you are just joining us, please access the toolkit for the schools link in the chat. And that is our resource for today. I'm going to go ahead and add that one more time to the chat to make sure everyone has access. At any time during our session today, please go ahead and add any ideas into the chat. We'll make sure we support you. All right, let's go on. My name is Jane Miller, and I'm the project director for District IT Leader, C-Suite Experiences for the Verizon Innovative Learning Schools Initiative here at Digital Promise. And I'm excited to be with you today as we discuss the Affordable Connectivity Program. First, we'll take care of a few housekeeping items. Please share your name and location and school district in the chat so we know who's here. And during the presentation, please use the chat to respond to the discussion and share your own experiences. And please also submit your questions using the Q&A button in the lower right corner of the screen. So who's out there with us today? Give us where are you located? We have Houston, Texas in the house. All right. Houston ISD. Anyone else? Where are you from? I know I'm out here in Los Angeles, California. Some of my colleagues are from other places on the East Coast. I believe Maryland, Virginia, DC. All right, and we also have New York City. All right, thank you so much for being here with us. Arizona, see, we're all over the place. This is great. Always nice that we can collaborate around the country and learn together and access these great resources. So thanks so much for sharing. And today, if we go to the next slide there, I'd now like to introduce Marcella Ingman, the Manager of Community Engagement for Education Superhighway. Marcella is passionate about leveling the playing field for underserved students. She is here today to talk to you about the Affordable Connectivity Program and how your district can help eligible families get connected to affordable home internet. So Marcella, go ahead, and you're going to join us here now and bring your camera up so we can say hello to our participants today. So thanks so much. Take it away.
Thank you, Jane, for having me here today. Hi, everyone. Today, we will be talking about the Affordable Connectivity Program and what an awareness campaign could look like from a school district perspective. I will first introduce what we refer to as the broadband affordability gap, cover in basic form what the Affordable Connectivity Program is, and I will share the school district ACP toolkit, which has many resources and guides for how to effectively reach households within your districts and promote the program. I'll also introduce a couple of tools, including the Get ACP pre-enrollment tool, which has been written and designed to make it easy for households to know if they qualify for the program. And finally, I will share with you a short case study based on work we did with Worcester Public Schools in Massachusetts. And of course, we'll save some time for some questions at the end. Education Superhighway has a long history of working with school districts and departments of education. The original mission of the organization was to close the connectivity gap in classrooms across the country. When the organization was launched, there was close to 23,000 schools without fiber in their classrooms, and only 10% of students could access digital learning. By 2020, 93.3% of schools were connected to fiber, increasing digital access to 99.6% of students. This was done by leveraging the E-Rate program. Having achieved its mission, Education Superhighway was ready to shut its doors. And now here comes a phrase that we have heard a lot over the last couple of years. And then COVID hit. As students moved to remote learning, a new challenge became very evident for school districts. They realized that the connectivity gap had not only existed at schools, but also at homes. Many of our existing partners reached out to see if Education Superhighway could help overcome this challenge. And very quickly, we changed our focus. Many people got their job back, and we changed our focus to closing the digital divide for students at home. So first, I want to take a moment to define the issue we are tackling here, and that is the broadband affordability gap. In the United States, there are approximately 28 million unconnected households for different reasons. We are excited to continue our work and to focus on closing the digital divide for the 18 million households that have access to internet but simply cannot afford to connect. And that is what we are calling the broadband affordability gap. We are focusing on America's most unconnected communities, where we can empower and equip trusted local messengers such as yourselves to spread awareness about and help facilitate enrollment in the ACP. Together, we have a historic opportunity to bring access to those 18 million households and bridging the broadband affordability gap by taking advantage of a new federal broadband benefit. We know that in the past 2 years, they have been incredibly challenging for education departments, schools, communities, and many of these difficulties and understaffing issues will continue. As an organization, we have focused on developing resources to ease the burden on awareness and enrollment for partners to spread the word and provide support. We are a national nonprofit. All of our toolkits and resources are provided at no cost. So let's talk about that benefit. The Affordable Connectivity Program is a federal program that got put in place a couple of years ago at the onset of the pandemic. You might have previously heard it referred to it as EBB, the Emergency Broadband Benefit. It became evident that the affordability gap was real for a lot of Americans, and as such, EBB transitioned into a more long-term benefit, now known as the Affordable Connectivity Program, which is a $14.2 billion program for which approximately 16.6 million households are eligible. And so what this program offers is a discount of $30 a month for broadband service. One helpful thing to think about this is the infrastructure versus hardware. The $30 a month covers that broadband connection, and the program also offers a $100 discount, the hardware piece, for a connected device. The Education Superhighway is more excited about this program than the earlier federal funding opportunities for many reasons. One is that the eligibility criteria is more expansive. The key points are outlined here. A household can qualify based on income if they meet the 200% of the federal poverty level, or if at least one member of their household participates in a program such as SNAP, Medicaid, federal housing assistance, SSI, WIC, or Lifeline. This is obviously highly relevant to you all. A family can qualify for the program if their student attends a CEP school or receives free or reduced lunch. And also another method to qualify is through a Pell Grant, or if they meet the criteria for an ISP low-cost plan. Enrolling in the program is a multi-step process. To complete the application, a person needs to know if they qualify, fill out the application, which involves providing identity and eligibility documentation. Then they wait for the application to be approved, and this time varies depending on how they qualify. Finally, they have to go and actually sign up with an internet service provider to get internet set up in their household. Despite the available funds, program adoption has been very low. We attribute this to three major factors. Unfortunately, only about 25% of households are aware of the ACP, and there is confusion about what the benefit actually offers. There is a trust issue. We all know that encouraging families to sign up for federal programs is challenging. These are real challenges, and we will talk about the resources that Education Superhighway is offering to help address these in partnership with, to help address these issues in partnership with school districts who can be wonderful, trusted partners and provide those resources. School districts are well placed to address these barriers to meet our goal of creating more equitable internet access and increasing learning opportunities for all students, and the wraparound benefits for the households having internet access. As trusted entities, school districts have strong communication channels to spread awareness of the benefit to their families. School districts can address concerns, answer questions, and ensure they reach families who need the resource the most. On the enrollment piece, school districts have the authority to provide eligibility documents for families. I apologize. If needed, and can therefore help eliminate one of the key barriers to enrollment, and that is that documentation piece. So to overcome these barriers, we have created a toolkit specifically geared towards school districts, and that is the link that Jane shared earlier in the chat. So let's dig a little bit into that. One main goal of the toolkit is to provide you with self-serve plug and play materials and guides to make a real impact in your digital equity work with a lighter lift. Education Superhighway's ACP toolkit for school districts contains action plans and customizable resources to help school district leaders raise awareness of ACP. We've included templates, tools, and resources to support school districts of all sizes. There are options for those able to launch outreach campaigns to families and options for those with the capacity of actually providing enrollment support. If you can take a look at the toolkit in step 1 of the action plan, you can go to page 3. Let me go to that. Whoop. You can see that we have highlighted some best practices and channels to use to disseminate information, along with a list of resources that you can use. The resource links that you see in the toolkit direct you to our resource hub, which I will talk about in just a minute. The ACP Resource Hub breaks down what the program is, addresses common questions and concerns, etc. It includes a social media toolkit with sample posts and images, as well as other materials like mailers, newsletter blurbs, event postcards, sidewalk signs, flyers, any digital content for your websites. And any and all of these materials can be accessible to you. Again, all these resources are free of charge. We acknowledge that internal capacity might not be sufficient to provide enrollment support, but raising awareness and empowering families to apply on their own accomplishes quite a lot. If you look at page 5 of the toolkit, you will see a link to our pre-enrollment tool. And I will talk a little bit more about that in a second. There is also a full enrollment guide that families can use to walk themselves through the application. The enrollment guide is super helpful because it comes with screenshots, which also provide good guidance as to how to apply. The links to the hub and the enrollment guide are now in the chat as well. The hub also includes the CEP and free and reduced lunch template letters, which you can provide to families if that is the only method they can qualify. And let me just quickly show you a little bit about, or walk you a little bit through the resource hub. We have created a section that specifically focuses on resources for school districts. The way this works is you click on the resource you are interested in downloading. This one in particular is very helpful. It tells families, for example, what sort of speeds they might need in their households based on how they use the internet. So you will select the language in which you want this downloaded in. We have several languages available. You would add to the download center. And if you're interested in downloading other materials, you can go back to the main page and add them to your cart. When you are ready to check out, you view cart and you will see the items that you have selected, and you will just proceed to download. The system will ask you to enter an email address just so that we know how many toolkits or pieces of collateral are being downloaded and who's using them. If you are interested in providing any feedback about that, it's always welcome, but we hope that it's accessible to all. Additionally, I want to talk a little bit about the enrollment assistant tool, and I will cover that in just a minute. I briefly talked about the eligibility letter that you can provide. They can use that to prove eligibility. No matter what letter you choose to use, whether it's our template or your own, the letter must contain the student's full name, the school address, the current year, and the school contact information. If a student is enrolled in a CEP school, a report card would also prove eligibility, so long as the report card includes the student's full name, school name, address, and the current academic year. And now let's talk a little bit about what the pre-enrollment tool looks like. So you can access this tool through getacp.org. It is a very mobile-friendly website. It's not an app that people need to download. And it's also equipped with a chat feature. I am going to walk you through one of the screening processes here. So you can see that in our home screen, 4 languages are available. So we will select English for now. This will request a few pieces of information, such as a zip code, to determine what plans are available in that area. I will use the San Francisco zip code. We are asking households if they are currently enrolled or if they have current access to internet at home. Our hope is that people start setting up a broadband connection at home rather than on their phone. So if they said no, that's okay. It just gives us a little piece of information. The tool will ask if they are enrolled in any benefits that are qualified eligible for this program specifically. So if a person selects SNAP, they will continue. We know that that is a program that will most definitely get them eligible and qualified. If the person has a social security number, they can they won't be asked for the number itself, but it will let them know that that is a way to prove identity. So at the end, the system will give them a checklist that will tell them what they will need in order to fill out their application. In this case, they will need the last 4 digits of their social security number, a photo of their SNAP benefit notification letter, and an email address to apply online. The system will also prompt them to start the ACP application. If they need assistance, they can select that. We do have a call center that will manage those requests. Additionally, the tool has a chat function that has live assistants or live technicians on the other end. So if people have questions on the spot, they can definitely access them that way. So in short, the tool determines the easiest way for people to apply. It includes a personalized checklist of the documents they will need. And additionally, it will give them a list of broadband plans available in their zip code. We have created a unique link for you to share with families. Through this, we will be able to see how many households are engaged in your community. I want to make sure you know that we are not tracking any individual users or collecting any data at this point. We are simply able to see how they are interacting with the tool and how many go straight to the application. So let's look at how one school district approached this work and the results that they achieved. First of all, I like to acknowledge that the resources that have been created were heavily informed by the partners we have worked with. Our partnerships with Worcester and Springfield school districts in Western Massachusetts were extremely influential in the development of every piece in the school district toolkit that is now available to you. Their work was critical for getting us to the understanding that we have today. And I'm going to share a little bit about how Worcester managed their campaign. To start with, they focused on general awareness. And because they knew that every family they served qualified through their dependent, they started getting those CEP letters ready. They conducted direct and targeted outreach to families via calls, texts, and emails to inform their families about the program. They reached out to local organizations to support their awareness campaign by posting on their own websites or sharing awareness materials about their program. Well, we directly supported the district during the campaign by helping with project planning and data tracking. They were the ones taking the lead on awareness. Their familiarity with the community context and the elements of trust made their communications effective and significant among their families. They heavily emphasized that awareness was the most important and critical component to build trust in the program and empower families to apply on their own. Some of the highlights of their campaign were identifying the best methods of communication and the major roadblocks for families and school administrators that they had to overcome. For the CEP letters, for example, it was difficult to match up the timing of incoming separate translations, mail merging, the data pull of addresses, and it was all within a deadline. They also tried cold calling and quickly realized that it was not working. It was simply too time consuming and it did not have the desired effect. So they moved to max text messaging, which was very effective. They also came to rely on Google Translate as tools to communicate with their families that did not speak English or spoke English as a second language. One thing that I want to mention is that we also now know that there is a recertification process that takes place every year. And while qualifying through a dependent through CEP is great, it is a lot more efficient to identify an alternate method if possible, as it would make the recertification process a bit smoother. And this is where those other federal benefits come in. And you might wonder what the impact of this work is. Before the campaign kicked off in January 2022, Worcester's adoption rate was 26%. 11,000 households were enrolled in the program. As of January 31st, 2023, the city's adoption rate is 52%, and it's actually one of the highest in the state and well above the national average of 25% adoption rate. At this point, 21,930 households are enrolled in the ACP. If you're interested in knowing where your city stands in terms of adoption rates, you can easily get that information through our dashboard. I will quickly show you that. Simply, you click on your state. I'm in North Carolina, so I'll click on this. And then it will tell you the enrollment rate in the state versus the national, which is at this point 29%. And then there's also an option to select the specific city in which you are located. So these are Worcester's recommendations. I will not read through them because at the end of the day, you know your community best and how to communicate with them. You know what your internal capacity is and what level also of support you can provide. At this point, the most, if not all resource, at this point, not all, most if not all resources have been translated into many different languages, forgive me, and that makes it easy to share information. So now that you know about this benefit, there are a few steps that you can take. The first is, of course, to get the word out. Spread awareness about the ACP through your many communication channels, direct families to getacp.org to help them determine the easiest way for them to apply. And if needed, and if your capacity allows, provide families with the identification and eligibility documents that they need to apply. As you embark in this work, we are here to support. Our doors are always open. One thing that I do want to call out is that Education Superhighway has recently released a asynchronous course to help people get some practice as to how to enroll families. This course was designed so that those interested in knowing how to support the community members in the sign-up process are well equipped to do so. The course can be accessed at any time after getting started. It saves the progress along the way. It's interactive and provides communities the opportunity for knowledge checks. And it has also resources linked to it. If your administration is able to provide that level of support, I hope that you find this tool helpful. And with that, I will open up for questions.
All righty, feel free to add any questions to the chat. We're going to go ahead and let's kick off with one, Marcella, that while everyone's thinking out there about what they'd like to ask. How does the ACP eligibility application process look like different from mixed status families?
Sure. We have found that sometimes those are the hardest families to get enrolled. Typically, the challenge there comes from proving identity for the parent or the adult in the household. It's easier for the system if the household provides a US ID, obviously. But it does accept foreign ID forms. For example, a foreign passport, a consulate card, or something that they received from their country of birth. I will say that the ID has to be current and not expired. But if the alternative is if they have a child who has a Social Security number, they can also go that route if the child receives a federal benefit rather than going through CEP.
Oh, fantastic. And then just a follow up, what can schools do to help support mixed status families through the process? What have you seen from some of the districts you've worked with?
So, providing obviously the resources in their language is very useful. We have found that many people do need enrollment support, but directing them through where they can verify whether or not they are eligible is important, so that tool comes into play. Providing those eligibility letters is important as well, if there is no other way to qualify.
Excellent, excellent. There was a question as well in regards to the slide deck, the recording. We will, just so we know that will be shared this week or early next week. So you will have access to all this information as well from the follow-up with you. So anything else? Anyone else have a Q&A for us? Any questions coming through? I am going to share one with you here, Marcella, that we could follow up on. This one was, what kind of the support structures? I know we've talked a little bit about this with some of the districts as well. Can schools implement to best help? So structures that would best help, if there's any support staff specifics or in general. What are your thoughts?
So what we have seen in some of the schools we have worked with is that if there is a family liaison, for example, in the staff, it's a good point person to loop into this campaign, mainly because they are able to communicate with the families directly. They most likely will know their language and are well equipped to provide that one-on-one support. So identifying those people within your administration that can create that trust with the families and support that and provide that direct support is important.
Yeah, and it also makes me think about what other types of community members or community-based organizations are out there that the school districts can leverage too. I know as a district leader myself that we worked closely with our school-based organizations and community centers, libraries, and others. And so we would connect that way. So have you heard of any districts using that strategy?
For sure. We have a very close partnership with Oakland Unified School District right now. And some of their schools are actually in the same location as the library. So they might have a neighborhood library within the, near or within the school grounds. And so the great thing about libraries, for example, is that they already have a computer room, most likely. And so they are, they have the space to host an event. They have the ability to disseminate information by simply putting a poster up, or if people are checking out hotspots or, computers, they can share information about the program as well. So identifying those partners is a great step towards getting people more familiar with the program.
Yeah, I know you talked in the very beginning as well, that idea that, here we talk about the pandemic launching so many things for us and having such impacts, but it also, just like you said, and it also really afforded us those strategies on what did we do as a school district in setting up those computers in the district office in the main lobby area. We got families in, we had interpreters in, we had, so some of those same strategies we used before, if they worked well then, and maybe aren't happening now, maybe looking back at what did work well during the pandemic and bringing that back to what do family supports need ongoing and sustaining that.
Yes, I think identifying, activities that you're already doing that you could integrate ACP into would just make it much more manageable.
Yeah, absolutely. Family nights, or even, community events at the schools that are happening that might have some technology related in some way, whether you're gathering, feedback from families via surveys, this or that, those are all computer based in many ways. And how can you tie this into something that's already happening so it doesn't feel like a standalone to the families and that they feel that wraparound support?
For sure.
And I know,
yeah,
we did have a question previously, and I don't know if this has shifted on the languages available for the flyers as well as the enrollment portal. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So for the enrollment, for the National Verifier itself, which is the website through which the applications are submitted, the application is available in Spanish and English. And there are instructions in several different languages. I believe at this point it's 12 languages that instructions are available in. It's in terms of the resource hub that we have created that matches those 12 languages for the most part. There are some resources that have not been translated into that many, but they are at least translated into Spanish and Chinese, both forms of Chinese.
Excellent. Now, I do know in my school district, we have about 120 languages. And so with that, we typically would have our top 10 to 15 that we would translate our documents into. So do the districts who are with us today that might need additional languages, they have permissions to take the English one and get it translated for themselves?
For sure. We designed this with the hope that, school districts or whoever is using the resources will make it their own. So they are editable. You can add your logos. You can add, there are some event postcards that we have designed. So you're able to put in your information and distribute those as is useful to you.
Oh, fantastic. And what is the turnaround time for application approval?
So that varies heavily on the way through which people apply. In terms of filling out the application and going through that process, it can take anybody anywhere between 15 to 45 minutes. Sometimes the system will ask for some random questions that are unpredictable or ask for additional documents that must be uploaded. In terms of how long it takes for people to actually get a qualification ID code, it varies based on how they apply. For example, if a household provides a social, the last 4 digits of the social, and are also enrolled in a federal funded program such as SNAP, there are systems in place, back data sharing agreements between states and the federal government through which those pieces of information come together and can immediately make somebody eligible. So you could be done filling out the application, and immediately after you will get the code that says that you're eligible, and you will use that code to then apply it to an internet plan. For people who are going the CEP or free or reduced lunch route, the system requires a manual review. So it might take a few days for that to actually happen. It's important for people to, check their email address or log back into their account to make sure that they are keeping up with the application status. If they do qualify, the code's only good for 90 days. If they don't use it within those 90 days, they have to fill the application all over again.
Oh, yeah, that's critical. I could imagine 90-day rule, everyone. If there's anything you walk away with, support within that 90 days. All right, that's great. So another one came up here, and it's in regards to support by phone. Are there any, anyone that they can talk to? Sometimes people, just filling out applications or whatnot, that can be a little separated from that human touch and feeling connected. So what is the process on getting folks by phone?
So USAC, which is the organization that manages the National Verifier, does provide a call support line, and they do have translation available in pretty much any language you can imagine. So they are open they're open 7 days a week from 9 to 5 East. I believe I can pull that number for you. If you don't mind, I will stop. Can I stop sharing the screen? And
it might, if we go to that, go ahead to the next slide. Let's take a look there.
Thank you.
Is it in? Oh, it's not. So go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and put those links we have here on the last slide. So feel free if you want to get that phone number for them, that'd be great.
But yes, they do provide support, live support via phone. Additionally, if people use the pre-enrollment tool, they can get somebody from Education Superhighway to assist them with enrolling. We have people who speak Spanish in the team. So those are the two languages that we can support at this point.
Right. Yeah, well, you were definitely a wealth of knowledge on everything happening. So for those of you joining us today, feel free to access the links that I just put here in the chat. You can copy those and save them. We will make sure again that you have the slide deck with all of the information. There's going to be, there's support provided, that you'll have anything that you need is right here in this deck and these links. Now, Marcella is getting the phone number, and it's right there in the chat that can actually be called for that personal touch if there is a family that does need to have that via phone. And as we know, Marcella is just a great wealth of knowledge in regards to all the tips that you would need to support your families, and some great ones, especially that 90-day rule. If they start the application, don't forget wraparound supports. Post those documents on your parent portals, on your sites for, translate them into other languages that you might need that are not a part of the 12, because we know our communities are diverse, and lovely diversity in our communities that need support, and we definitely want to be there for them.